Hello and welcome. We're glad to have you all here. Quite a crowd coming into the room just now. I'm Margaret Johnson, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our Protect My IT Podinar. Now, what's a Podinar? Well, we made it up, but it's kind of partly podcast, partly webinar. So what that means is we don't do a lot of rehearsing. We talk about topics the way humans do. And if Mike gets overly technical, I get to tell him to stop being so technical because this is not a technical briefing. It's a business briefing. So if you have questions that come up during the session, hit the Q&A panel or drop them in the chat, whatever works for you. And without further ado, I want to introduce Mike Mullin, president of IBSRE, the parent of ProtectMyIT.com. Hi, Mike.
Good morning, Margaret. How are you?
So we are here to talk about a paradigm shift. And I want to start, Mike, with a phrase that everybody knows, even if they don't know where it started. But the phrase I'm talking about is trust but verify. And
President
that's
Reagan.
not enough anymore, though, is it?
No, it's just the opposite of that nowadays. Um, so it really needs to be verify and then trust. It really comes down to an access and a identity issue than anything else. We need to know who you are and what you need to do before you do anything.
Well, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but that sounds like something IT should be handling. Why have we gathered a room full of financial leaders to talk about this thing?
Because
And why isn't trust the default anymore?
trust isn't the default because there's too many people who are making it not be the default. And you become anonymous on the internet, so you can steal anybody's money and nobody knows who you are. Um, but it's really not a technology issue. We can put all kinds of controls on, we can lock people down, and at the end of the day, it's still a financial risk issue. It's still how many days are you going to be out of business, and regulatory fines and insurance claims and all the things that go along with financial risk versus somebody gets onto my computer and locks up my files. And we can stop all that. We can do a good job of stopping many of that anyway. Um, but at the end of the day, it becomes an organizational shift to a zero trust environment. And zero trust technology wise ends up being I can put applications on your systems that won't allow anything to run that we don't already know. Won't allow anybody into your network that we don't already know. Um, but it's more than that. It ends up
People
being that it's more of a discipline and a cultural event, a culture that needs to be established within an organization, um, not just a technology event.
So let's explore that a little more. I think the word you might have been looking for right there was governance.
Yeah,
And govern, right?
good word.
It's a word. It's a great word. Let's talk about governance. So why is this falling to the CFO? Who are the people who are watching this stuff? Because you've got folks from the outside looking in. And they're expecting now certain things from organizations, right?
Yep. So if you just look at insurance companies, insurance companies, 5 years ago, if we wanted to get cyber insurance, our application was 10 questions. Um, Pretty simple, pretty easy. It's now 10 pages. They want details on what applications you use for what and who is monitoring things. I mean, it's a much harder um, application process, and there's many more things you must do. I mean, just MFA, multi-factor authentication, must be on everywhere and all the time. Um,
I'm sorry, you
and
said multi-factor authentication, and I started laughing because this literally happened to me. I had to log into a website to approve an order, an automatic order. And when I logged in using my username and password, it said, "Oh, we have multi-factor authentication. What phone number should we text your code to?" And I'm
I,
like, that's
I
not
wouldn't,
really
I wouldn't
multi-factor
trust that. I
authentication.
wouldn't trust that at all.
No, I could have given him your phone number.
Yeah. And I would have maybe thought I was getting a code from you. Um,
Right, right. So all of this outside pressure, right? All these expectations. I mean, it's insurers, but is it government
sure.
regulators?
So, in this, in the state of New Jersey, the state of New York, particularly the state of New York, New York has what they call the Shield Act. The Shield Act basically says if you were to have a list of all your customers with their personally identifiable information stolen from you and uploaded onto the dark web, that you may be responsible for a $5,000 per record fine. And if you don't notify the Attorney General that this has happened, they can fine you up to $250,000. Now, the government
And
only knows how to make us do something. The government says they're gonna fine us if we don't do something. So it's just one, and every state's coming up with another version of these kind of regulations and laws. So we have to know what's going on in our particular arena and be able to protect that. Uh,
so I got to do a little, this is a tiny, it's not a left turn, but this little fork in the road we're going to take for just a minute here.
Squirrel.
It's a little squirrel. There you go. So, in our last briefing, one of the things we talked about was AI. And
Mhm.
so I want to bring this to light because how do all these nuggets string together? This is one way how. People in your office will say, well, I would never upload a spreadsheet of, I would never give that away. I would never email that to a stranger. But we're seeing people upload spreadsheets of personally identifiable information to free AI applications, free chat GPT,
Yep,
and
yep.
say, analyze this and tell me if I have, health insurance concerns for next year, or tell me about the premiums, or what kind of raises should I
So
plan?
I actually had a client take 2024's insurance, medical insurance census and 2025's medical, and compare them to see what the difference in premiums were with additional people. Just do an analysis of the
And
two
they asked
different.
ChatGPT to do
They
it.
asked ChatGPT to do it, and it was a free version of ChatGPT. So all that information, those spreadsheets are there. Now, granted, you'd have to understand prompting really, really well to find it, but you
There's
but
going to be people in, I'm going to say, sweatshops in third world countries training themselves to harvest stuff that's on the free, what's
yep,
called
absolutely.
LLMs, large language models, right?
Yep,
The Chat GPTs and the Perplexities and the Claudes and the Geminis and all of that stuff.
yep.
And so risk is high. But again, a lot of this sounds like IT's responsibility. But the CFO, the financial leaders of the organizations, they've got to be the adults in the room, right? They've got to be the people creating the culture and the governance and the rules that everything else lives under. True?
Correct. Yes, correct. It's because it's not a technical risk. It's a financial risk. And the person in charge of most organizations in charge of governance and financial risk is the CFO. They don't need to know how to program anything. They don't need to know how to configure everything. What they need to know is how they need to take their skill set in governance in other ways and apply it to governance around technology. How do you document your guidelines? Where are your guardrails? How do you communicate that to your staff? How do you ensure your staff is doing what you tell them that you've told them to do? How do you analyze that? Um, I had we have a piece of software that can look at all your data stored on your hard drives and see what movement there's been in it. And does it look like it could be PII? Uh, when I ran this against a client of ours, they had uploaded their financial statements to free ChatGPT 504 times. That's a lot. Um, and that many times that an engine sees this stuff, they're going to think it's pretty important because they've seen it so many times. So what does it expose it to? Who does it let it get to? Um, so
I
I
can
think
imagine now somebody starting that kind of business. Let's pretend for a moment that it's an interior design firm. I'm thinking about starting an interior design firm. What does it take to break even? And ChatGPT comes back with, well, this, according to this company's financial statements, you'll have these sorts of, because that's what it will do.
yes, it absolutely will do. I mean, it is incredible how good the tools are. And I know, people will say, well, no one's using AI in my company. Yeah, probably 50% of the employees are using it for something. Um,
Mhm.
so it becomes, you need to set the guidelines internally of what it means. And zero trust just means that everybody thinks like this. Everybody understands why we do MFA. And yes, it can be a pain at times. But you know what? It's the cost of doing business. Um, we don't need our reputation damaged. We don't need to be paying claims or paying out of pocket for restoration. I mean, the average restoration today is somewhere around the 400 to $500,000 range to restore someone after a ransom attack. Um, so
And and oh, by the way, your cyber liability insurance might say, "Oh, sorry, we're not covering that."
yeah, and that's a big piece of the insurers and the insurer side and the state side is have you done what you said you did in your application? So if you said you use MFA across the organization everywhere and all the time, and they come in and they find out that, oh, you know what, the CEO decided he didn't want to do MFA, so he turned it off on his machine. It's a reason for them to deny the claim.
Hmm.
So, and how do they find this stuff out? They've got tools that will go around and look for this stuff. Vice versa, from your side, we have tools that will allow us to keep track of this stuff, to ensure that you have the documentation to be able to support your zero trust environment and your what you've done to protect yourself.
I've noticed that, in bigger companies in particular, they might actually have a job role that is compliance and governance officer
Mhm.
or chief security officer, even, who might share some of this responsibility. But ultimately, what we're trying to guard against is the hits to your pockets, right? It's
Mhm.
and and here's the thing, a lot of people don't quite get is even if everything comes up roses, even if your cyber liability insurance pays every nickel, even if you recover in record time, which could be 3 days, you still took the hit. You still went down. You
Yeah,
still had all the problems. You still had to, depending on what the breach was, tell your clients and partners that their PII got stolen. You still have to do all that stuff, and you end up with a reputation hit and a money hit.
correct. I've been through a number of these in the last few years, and even if it's 3 days, the stress in those 3 days is just not worth it.
Well, and you've got a major deal you're trying to close, and now you can't access any of the documents to it. That deal goes down. I mean,
Mhm.
the ripple effect of something like this, and again, even if everything goes perfectly with getting it fixed and getting the claim paid and everything else, you still went through it.
Yeah,
And that is really the
and people
horrible
talk about
part.
it. And people talk about it. Your customers talk about it. Your employees talk about it. It just becomes you remember the last event. Remember the last event, and it just becomes a stigma, that kind of a little dark cloud that you carry around with you all the time. Um, so I really look at the CFO has to take the leadership role in zero trust, in putting governance around these initiatives, um, and it's their responsibility to know that What's going on to do this? And listen, there's lots it doesn't take a lot to set up the guidelines, to put the tools in place, to monitor it. Um, if it costs, I don't know, if it costs, I'll use round numbers. If it costs $25,000 a year and it saves you from having a $400,000 event, it's worth the $25,000.
Right.
Um, um,
But again, we're going to stress it's not the tech, it's not the architecture, it's the governance layer. And I think the word layer is really important here because the governance layer has to sit on top of everything else. And underneath that, you have other things. You've got the IT stack that's supporting it and the IT policies. You've got human resources policies. All of this sits under the governance layer. And that's what the financial leaders are becoming more and more accountable for. It is a shift, and it is way more than financial statements. It is ensuring things like that governance even exists and that verification is provable and that the controls you have in place align with your insurance requirements and that you've got audit readiness that's real, not theoretical.
correct, correct.
Continuity
Um,
risk minimized. While IT has the mandate and the resources to execute on the technical side, finance has to provide the oversight. It's a clear, non-technical role
right.
that is required.
It's more of a change management initiative than it is a
Yeah,
technical initiative.
yeah, that would be
Right?
a way to look at it.
It's getting everyone in the organization. I have some customers that are really good at this. They think security all the time. That's all. It's just they're very focused on it, and rightfully so. They don't want to be financially burdened with one of these attacks. Um, so it's more around change management, and it really requires someone to sit and think about what policy updates do I need to do. Um, I have a an authorized use manual that I give to my new hires and my staff, and we review those every year. And everybody signs off that they got these documents. But if they got these documents and they go on the shelf and no one really uses the data, the information in there, then it's really not governance. It's yeah, you're checking off the box, but it's not enough. You've got to be training. Staff needs to be trained. Most of these training tools are, there's a 2 minute, 3 minute video with 4 questions about it, just to make sure you watch the video to answer the 4 questions. And it's not so much that they get the questions, the answers correct. It's that they watched the video. They've they've thought about security for at least 3 minutes that week, and it just becomes part of their life.
Mhm.
Um, you've got to have everyone on staff doing the same thing. You need to make sure um, that everyone's aligned around what the guidelines are and what the guardrails are. I mean, today with AI, you really need to think about how are you going to implement AI? Are you ready to to implement AI? Is your data in a place that is safe and usable in an AI engine? Uh,
Wait a second. Are
mhm.
you ready to use AI? Is a conversation that is not being had in so many companies because or when they have that conversation, they're thinking about, am I ready to implement agentic AI in my supply chain? They're not thinking about the fact that some person in the who got tasked with compare the benefits from this year to last year is going to go to ChatGPT and say, here, do this for me so I can take an
And
early lunch
summarize it
break.
in a couple paragraphs, and then they're going to take it and
Yeah, here's my report.
maybe edit it, but maybe not. They may turn it
Assuming
over
that
to
no
the
one is using AI is a
it's
bad
wrong.
assumption. It's flat
You're
out wrong.
wrong.
And they're using it for more than what you think. And they're even using it in the workplace for personal things that could do something weird within your organization. I mean, I know somebody who sat at her work researching uh researching the how do I put this? The what are the ingredients for a certain controlled substance that you can get arrested for having? And she was doing the research because she wanted to know if those ingredients were something that her kid had just bought, but still she's got now a meth recipe on her hard drive. Um, and
Well,
so
stored somewhere in chat or
right,
wherever it might
right.
be, Gemini, wherever it is.
Yeah.
And you can't keep AI out of your life. It's
Mm-mm,
everywhere. You go to Google, just go to Google, so we've been doing for the last 15 years to Google something, and the first answer you get is Gemini's answer, right?
mm-hmm.
And it's the first third of the page. So you're automatically going to see these things in your life, and you can't stop it. So how do we get it under control so we're not putting ourselves at risk? Um,
So on ProtectMyIT.com, in the blog, we've got blog posts that deal with AI. There's an AI Guardrails document that you can download that will give you some structure. We also have some sample IT guardrail documents, and there is a zero trust checklist on the blog post that explains the concept of zero trust in language that is meant for the non-technical person. Now, if you're a
yeah.
technical person on this call, you're rare in the finance world.
You just wasted the last 25 minutes of your life.
Oh, please. We are entertaining, if nothing else. So
Nothing
there you
else.
go. All right. But we have the resources for you, and that's at protectmyit.com/blog. If you just want to go straight there and see what's up, you certainly can do that. And each blog post has something on it that you can download that's got some value for you. Um, Having the
Here's the
guardrails is important, right? The guardrails,
first thing you need to do. It's
and
think
that's
is
what falls in the finance lap.
Yeah, it's setting the policies and the governance is the first thing that needs to be done. And you can use the documents you got, and we can certainly help you do these things. We have samples and whatnot. Um, and then from that, you can then build the infrastructure and the culture around those documents. Um, as we were coming up to the last few minutes, I think from a CFO standpoint, there's really five things I think you've got to kind of think in the back of your head. These are the things I'm responsible for, and I need to lead on. Is understanding governance. Is what external resource or what external bodies are out there that are requiring me to have um, requiring me to maintain security around my data. Um, what tools can I use? Have IT tell you what tools you can use. Remember that PII needs to be stored in a encrypted on your hard drive and um, and encrypted in transit. So most of us don't use encrypted emails. We just don't think about it, but it needs to be done. Um, so you have to remember what the govern who am I governed by, and how do I make sure that I have clarity around that. You have to have a budget for this stuff. It's a multi-year lifetime kind of endeavor. It's not a one-time purchase. You can't turn around and say, here's $25,000, fix this. That's not how it works. It really takes it's a long-term endeavor that you'll be doing for the rest of your lives. Know what your insurer wants you to, you've got your 10-page document, understand the questions and answer the questions truthfully. If you don't do something, don't say you do. Say you don't, and your premium may be higher, but at least your claim would be paid. Use the applications and fill them out exactly what you have in place, so the insurer can underwrite you correctly, and you're not surprised at the end of the day. Um, you, from a CFO standpoint, you have to try to eliminate shadow IT. That's people using applications, AI, or other applications that aren't corporately approved. And are happening in the background at the departmental level, and maybe using a new CRM. Sales wanted to use this new fancy online CRM that was going to generate all kinds of new leads for them. They end up doing this in the sales department. Doesn't cost a lot, $25 per user per month. There's 10 of them, it's $250. Nobody's asking about $250 of expense, but now all of a sudden you have this application that may or may not have the proper security around it. And just remember that it's a shared responsibility from finance, IT, HR, and operations. Everyone needs to be engaged. It needs to be a culture. It needs to be a corporate culture that we always think about what we do. I've always said the scariest inch in the world is between your fingertip and the mouse. Um, in the property management, in owners and operators of commercial real estate, if you look around, you've got cameras on your network. You've got
Door locking systems.
HVAC systems, entry systems, all kinds of things on your network. How are those separated and kept in their own lanes and not on your network? So it's just there's pieces that you can do, and we can certainly help with these things. If you have questions, we can certainly try to help you through and look at the documentation. Know that you have to continue to have clear boundaries, and that you need to have your framework that fits your organization. And every organization is different. It doesn't have to be, locked down tight of a drum and everything. But your organization needs to be evaluated and take the proper steps to ensure that you're not putting yourself at financial risk that may be devastating to the future of the company. I
Um,
think this is a leadership initiative, not a technology initiative.
and you said a couple of things. First of all, you accidentally happened on the facilities or COO may have responsibility for systems that have IT components and IT doesn't know about them. So that's part of the reason why this isn't something that lives wholly within IT. It has to live within leadership and in particular financial leadership. But there's two big points I want to make here. One, this isn't a rule book that gets written and reviewed once a year. This is a rule book that has to be a living, breathing document that gets actively engaged with by every new employee on a regular basis. And the other point is, in the absence of a culture being created by the organization, make no mistake, the organization will create culture on its own.
Hmm.
And if your culture isn't governance, isn't verify then trust, if it's not those things, and people start willy-nilly uploading stuff to chat GPT or saying, hey Gemini, can you compare these financial statements for me, then that's the culture that you have without permission.
Yeah, within an organization, there's people who we'll call them clickers. They click everything. If you don't teach them not to click everything, they're going to continue clicking everything. We really need to teach them that today's phishing attempts are really good. They use AI to generate their emails. There's no misspellings. We used to be able to say, oh, yeah, it was written in Eastern Europe. We know that that's not right. But they use AI to write their emails now. Their
Yeah.
landing pages look just like your bank's landing page,
Yeah.
exactly like it. You put your username and password in, and guess what? Where you're going? You're going to go to your bank. They're not going to stop you. They're going to give but you just gave them your username and your password, and the next person in is going to be them, not you. Um,
And with that, we need to say farewell. We're at the
so do we
top of the
really?
hour and want to thank everybody for being here. And Mike, any last words? Make them quick.
Um, No, I think that the goal here is to make sure your insurance is valid, your auditors are satisfied, and your board is confident that the risk is being taken care of in your organization. That's at the end of the day, that is a CFO's job, is to maintain risk. If you want to get a hold of me, Margaret just put in the chat my email, our website. Please don't hesitate to reach out, and we look forward to you being safe out there.